Good morning. This is Dudley Shugart from Artistic Artifacts in Alexandria, Virginia. We are the ones left here today. We officially have named ourselves a B team, but Judy is at Bernina University in California. She is looking at the new K facet machines. She's learning all sorts of new things about being a better Bernina dealer, and we would like to show you the new Bernina machines. They have cave colors on them, cave things on them. And if you would like one, we will get a few very limited ones. And with a $500 deposit, we can hold yours and order one for you. And as you know, Artistic Artifacts is having Kafe and Brandon here this fall, the second week in October. We have a lecture available with Kafe and Brandon on the 7th of October. It's going to be at the Masonic Memorial in Alexandria City, which is a neat place too. So we would love to have you join us for that lecture. And we're going to also host a Monday sit-and-sew with Kafe and Brandon before they leave town. I believe it's up on our website, and there are more details to follow with that. Oh, it says registration open, so you can look into that. Chris isn't here today. She's at Sacred Threads, so take part of that exhibit. That's open extends through Sunday the 24th. We're a sponsor of that, and the show hours are Monday through Saturdays 10 to 5 and Sunday 1 to 4. And you can look for more details at sacredthreads.com. So what we are going to do here this morning is make a pillowcase. It's our Christmas in July, and so I have Christmas fabric here to make Christmas pillowcases. The first thing you do to make a pillowcase is cut a probably 22 to 28. My pattern says 28, so my pillowcase is going to be large piece of Christmas fabric that you like, an accent strip, and then a cuff strip. And we're going to sew these together as the first part of our pillowcase. What? Oh, this is 3.5 inches, and I've already folded and ironed it. And this one is 10.5 inches, and I haven't done anything with that yet because that's part of the next step. So I'm going to sit down here at our Bernina 475, which is what the green Kafe machine is going to be, or is. I guess it's already being. And we're going to sew the first part of our pillowcase together. We're going to put right sides up our Christmas material, then we're going to put in our accent strip, and then we're going to put our cuff on top. So right sides all together on this. This is a batik, so I get to cheat. You don't know right side from wrong side. And then we're going to sew. Some people pin. I tend to be stubborn and refuse.
And can you one more time repeat the width of the fabric, please?
The width of the fabric is it is 28 inches by the width of the fabric, so anywhere from 42 to 44. And this one is 3.5 by the width of the fabric, which is the cut off the bolt here. And this one is 10.5 width of the fabric, is, like I said, 42 to 44. So these pillowcases are a very good introduction to people who don't know how to sew, who've never used a machine before. It's very honestly basic straight lines. In my previous life, I've done birthday parties with these. I did a 2nd grade birthday party with these. I had 4 little girls, and they each made their pillowcase. And then when the same little girls got to 7th grade, we made them again. And that time I probably had 10 to 15 little girls, but that's okay. We had a ball. I pre-cut everything, and they got to sew straight seams. Any questions, Kyle?
Let's see. We have a lot of people checking in from all over the country. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see. Yes, it may look like the 535, but it is the 475. Oh, and is it a 1/4 seam allowance? 1/4 seam allowance?
Yeah, I tend to go a little bigger on seam allowances, and for this particular thing, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going the width of the foot because that's easiest. But technically, it should probably be 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to get to the end of this. We're going to cut our threads. And we're going to do what we call the burrito method here. We're going to, so when our pillowcase is finished, there are going to be no raw seams on the inside. So this is what we have so far. We have our big Christmas print. We have our accent piece and we have our cuff. And now I need to trim it off so it's even on all sides. So those of you who are familiar with my classes and what I teach, I only have one rule in class. And you say, what is that one rule? The one rule is you must always have your rotary cutter shut. So when you pick up your rotary cutter, you pick it up, you open it, you cut, and then you shut it. Then you can lay it down. Do not lay down an open rotary cutter. We have found around here that does bad things to fingers and toes if you leave them open. So please, please, please keep your rotary cutter closed if you're not using it. Rotary cutters, they're great things. They are so helpful. I don't know when I've used a pair of scissors last to cut anything. So I'm going to line up my ruler to make sure I'm straight on my cuff and my accent piece. And this, picking up the rotary cutter again, open, push through, close, and then move. Alrighty, so now that my edges are all trimmed, guess we're okay. Now that we're all even, we are going to roll our insides into the cuff of our pillowcase. So they say to roll, I just usually fold it this way for a little bit. I'm going to roll it in.
Yes, this video will be available for viewing after the live. It'll go right up on our Facebook page. Good morning to everybody else tuning in. Dudley, we do have one question.
Sure.
For some late joiners, did you sew the 28-inch side of the main fabric? You showed the longer side?
No, I showed the 45-inch side of all three fabrics. So it's a 45. This is, undo. This is 28 inches here. This is our 3.5 inches. And this is our 10.5 inches. They're all 45 this way. So 45, 45, 45, 45. Now we get to re-roll, which is absolutely fine. So what we're going to do is put all of the insides inside of our cuff. We're going to make sure that this seam is free and clear of anything from the inside. Free and clear of anything of the inside. So what I have right here in my hand is the seam allowance with the cuff, the two pieces of the accent fabric, and the Christmas fabric. Everything else needs to be clear of the seam, and I'm going to pin it down here to sew it together. So we have what we call the burrito in the pillowcase biz. I pin away. Probably don't pin as often as I should. You can also use the wonder clips. Evidently the video that we had showed people using the wonder clips to pin their project. I've been given a few. I don't know that I've ever used them. So wonder clips also work instead of pins. Pinning along here. Always pick your pins up off your green board or your cutting mat when you're done. I have driven many a rotary cutter over a pin. That ruins the rotary cutter. Okay, so now I have pinned. Everything from the inside is all pushed away from the seam. Got it? And then I'm going to sew on top of this first seam I made. I'm going to sew right there again to fold in the cuff. And I am just sewing right inside the seam that I sewed the first time. Yes, ladies, I am pulling out my pins. I am guilty of not doing that very often, but I called on it yesterday. So it is probably best for your computerized machines not to go over pins. You use Wonder Clips, you can't go over those at all. Oops. Don't sew in bare feet, you get pins on the floor. Questions machine, I just use a basic gray thread for most things I sew. You know, for piecing or whatever this is, I just sew. There's no need for matching thread at this particular point. Uh-oh, I ran out of bobbin thread. That was my biggest nightmare. Oh, something ran out. No, I'm not out. It just stopped. Am I out? Yes, I am out. Do you have the gray thread from over there? So these great, nice, big, huge bobbins are fabulous, but even they ran out of thread. Try the 570. And I very carefully looked yesterday to make sure that I had the right bobbin. Red's fine. Perfect. White's good.
And were you sewing right over that last stitch, or was it right next to it?
It was right next to it, very close. It could be, if you sew right next to it, you don't have to be precise and get over it. Okay, so my biggest nightmare has come true. I have run out of bobbin thread on Facebook Live.
It's okay, because it's so easy to change your bobbin on these machines.
That's true, except I didn't have enough of this thread either.
Oh, Judy's on this morning.
Hi, Judy.
She said it's not an Artistic Artifacts live presentation without an unplanned surprise.
Oh, I've had my surprise for the week. It didn't need to be this. I'll tell Judy my surprise for the week later. It wasn't here. It's all in hell. You can't pass the monkey off your back. There we go. Okay. Now we're on. We're moving right along here. So these Bernina machines really do thread very easy, very simply. No problem at all. And again, back to, I am sewing right next to the other seam. Oh, I've lost my pins because I pulled them out. That's why you never pull out your pins. Success. So now you have your burrito. If you're hosting that little kid's birthday party, it's a weapon. I cannot weapon my camera guy, or Kathy will be upset. So we will take our burrito, stop using it as a weapon, and we're going to pull it, everything from the inside. We lost our scissors. We're going to clip our threads, and then we're going to pull everything from the inside to the outside. Voila. Now you have a perfectly placed cuff. You have your cuff, your accent piece, and it's all wrapped in. Okay, this is where you need to iron just a touch to make sure that your cuff, I read one place you can press down, you can top stitch your accent piece. I think I'm going to pass on that just because I haven't done it in the past. So if you iron your cuff down perfectly, we're going to iron this out, push it away. Make sure it's pushed away in the back. Okay. Now, you have a big, wide open pillowcase, just like this. So, the next step, and this is counterintuitive, we're going to put wrong sides together, and we're going to sew our pillowcase all the way around. And what we're doing that is by doing wrong sides together, we're going to make French seams, which means we're going to hide all of our seams. So when you look inside the pillowcase at the end, you're not going to see any raw edges. So back to the machine with a nicely full bobbin.
Did you mention the directional prints?
We're going to. I have a whole bunch of, we'll talk about how I chose fabric in just a minute. Line up your seams, make sure your cuff seams match on the...
Question while we're doing this.
Sure.
What thread are you using?
I am using confetti thread, which is a 50 or 40. It's a 40 weight cotton. You all could also use just designer thread, which is a, what is it? Put me under pressure. 40 weight polyester. And very often, that's what's also in the bobbins here, I believe. You could also put your deco bob in the bottom. Because, especially if you're quilting and piecing, that makes a very, very thin, fine edge. I don't know if you caught what I did there. My seams weren't perfect. I just pulled the bottom cloth so they matched up. Stop in the corner. Sometimes you can go off the edge too. That also makes your corner just a little more secure. I usually turn, but you caught me being secure this time. And go ahead and turn the corner.
Can you do this with a serger also?
Absolutely. Or I don't see why you would. You could do this piece. Now what I'm going to do on the inside you probably can't do with the serger. But if you serge your edges, then you wouldn't need to do the next step.
Is this all straight stitch somewhere?
It is all straight stitch. Nothing elaborate. Just a standard stitch that comes up when you turn on your machine. There's no need to go bigger or smaller than that. Okay, so now I have my pillowcase sewn around. Here, I'll stand up. That's easier. And we're going to turn it inside out again. And again, my pattern makes a bigger pillowcase. You may not need as much of the large print Christmas fabric. So I'm going to turn this inside out. Take a pin, pull the corners out. So I have that corner out perfectly. I'm going to pull it aside. I might iron this open. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But okay, let's pull this corner out. So we want this seam as open as possible. Because now I'm going to go around on the inside of the pillowcase, and that's going to hide the raw edge that I just made on the other side. I'm just ironing this seam open and flat so I can sew around it. Make sure I've got it all pulled carefully. Get this one pulled out as well as I thought. Bend your pins, by the way. So still opening the seam. Got to do the 45-inch side now. Any more questions? Everybody thinking about getting a cave machine? They're really colorful.
No questions.
No questions.
Lots of comments. We had a few people say that it was great for donating to children's hospitals, great easy projects, great with kids.
Yeah.
Donating to women's shelters.
Absolutely.
All great.
Absolutely. Sometimes the police stations will take them, so if they take a child, they can give them their very own pillowcase. Yeah, lots of quilt. Our quilt guild is doing a pillowcase challenge. You know, how many can you make? So, yep, there are a lot of. They make great gifts. Christmas fabric. Anybody who you see for Christmas can get one. Alrighty, I think we're ready to go around the inside now.
Okay.
And this I'm going to make. I made my inside seam. The seam in here, I made 1/4 inch, so I'm going to go a little wider so that I encase. What I'm going to do is encase this raw edge seam. See the raw edge seam? I'm going to encase this by sewing around on the other side.
Got it.
And I hope I'm not talking too loud or too fast. My mother keeps telling me I do both.
Someone's daughter did 65 pillowcases once. It's pretty insane.
It is insane. Again, these are great Girl Scout projects. Anybody can do these. These are really not trying to teach. You know, if you're teaching somebody to sew, this is a good first project. Pajama pants are a second good project.
Ooh. Nope.
What did I do?
No, I did it. I turned the camera around. Sorry.
Oh.
It's not what we came here to see.
No. Now I'm taking a little bigger bite to make sure that my seam is fully encased. Clip your seams. That's my biggest sewing fault.
Someone was asking, I didn't see this at the time, when you were ironing, you were pressing the seams open? Is that what you were doing?
I was pressing it, yes, so
Okay.
that they were... So when you go through the machine, you don't have to do anything other than just flat out run it through the machine. Alrighty, and voila, we are going to have a finished pillowcase as soon as I turn it inside out and right side up. The dimensions again are 10.5 for the cuff. Back to the camera is not a good way. 10.5 to the cuff, 3.5, and then my pattern says 28, which is too long. As you can see from my finished result here, the pillowcase is a little long. You can make them definitely, probably you could even go 22. So there you have it. You have your Christmas pillowcase.
A few things. Yes, this video will be available for rewatching on our Facebook immediately after this live ends. Someone did have a question. Is there a reason that you don't back tack?
Because I should and I don't. I don't know. Yes, it's probably a good skill and you probably ought to. And you can just iron it flat. I've made some others. Now, when you cut these, this particular material came off the bolt and it didn't matter which direction you cut it. This is what was at hand. So I could make a pillowcase out of this, cut and get my 22 inches, and it doesn't matter which direction. But you have to be careful. A lot of Christmas fabrics are on the bolt the other way. So this one, if I cut it and sew it like I did, you're going to be sleeping with your houses upside down, and that's just not a good thing. So you have to cut it off the bolt. You have to pay attention to the direction of the bolt. So this one I had to cut differently. So my 45 inches was different. Then I have my green accent and my black and white cuff. Would be another pillowcase. But again, you need to make sure your houses are up and down unless you like to sleep on houses going the wrong direction. This one's another one that I had laid out. And it doesn't matter which way this material goes because the print is non-directional. That wasn't very good. I used the same word 3 times, but it doesn't matter how the print goes. And then I made this my accent. And then this Christmas stars will be the cuff. So you can have a pattern like that. I usually like to pick my fun pattern, something that contrasts just a little bit, and then something that matches nicely so that the accent piece is just that, an accent piece. Charlie Harper, he's all about Christmas too. We have some new Charlie Harper Christmas fabric, which is really a lot of fun. My skiers are upside down, right? So I made a skier pillowcase. The skiers, you have to look at that one. It was directional. You don't want your skiers going up, sleeping sideways. So they are sleeping up and down correctly. All right. So again, here's one finished pillowcase. Here are 2 in the working and the other one. Let me read my list of things I was supposed to say and make sure Kyle and I got them.
I do have one more question before you do that.
Sure.
By not, and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, by not top stitching the accent fabric, doesn't it wrinkle and crimp up after washing?
It possibly could. Yes, you could. The other thing is you could get out an iron. My mother still irons her pillowcases. So, yeah, it might roll a little bit, but even if you top stitch it here, it could roll this way anyway. So you could top stitch it here and top stitch it there. Use your fancy decorative stitches. You could go down and use all those fun stitches that are on your machine you never use. Many, on the pattern that I have from home, many people have pieced the cuff. You know, lots of different diamonds and strips and stuff like that. You could actually piece the cuff. So if you look here, the cuff is actually pieced. And there are different things. You can do charm squares, you can do diamonds. These are prairie points, I believe. This is just leftover squares. Those are yo-yo flowers. You could do your cuff in any way. I just used a plain cuff. And do we have any questions?
I think we're good.
Again, back to if you want a cave colored machine, Kathy and I are going to be here until 4 o'clock today. We'd love to take your placement order. Sacred Threads, sponsored by Artistic Artifacts, is running through next weekend. And it's out at Methodist Church where? I don't remember.
Florist Methodist Church in Herndon.
Florist Methodist Church in Herndon is what I was just told. Again, go to sacredthreads.com. And Judy is going to be live from Sacred Threads next Saturday morning. So you'll get to see Sacred Threads if you're not local. Anything else, Kyle? Oh, kits. So we do have pillowcase kits available. They're pre-cut. All you have to do is do the sewing like I did. I pre-cut my own today, but you could do the sewing. So these are our different pillowcase kits. We have unhappy dogs. We have squirrels, snow globes, foxy ornaments, all sorts of fun things.
And where can you find those?
You can find those online at artisticartifacts.com or here in the store.
All right.
So we made it to 10. Alrighty, thank you. And y'all have a good day.